Now, may I have the honor to invite Ms. Karen Ho, Head of Corporate and Community Sustainability, WWF-Hong Kong, to present on stage to share with us on global packaging impacts. Please give another round of applause to welcome Ms. Ho.
Good morning. Very pleased to deliver the first presentations about global packaging impacts. Before I start my presentation, I'd just like to ask you, do you have your breakfast already? I don't know what you ate this morning, but I went into a quick service restaurant and then I ordered a big breakfast. And then after that, I have all these paper cup, plastic lids, plastic cutleries, paper plate, sugar sachets, wooden stirrer. I feel so sorry about the waste I created. So I start asking myself, what if the paper cups, plastic lids, wooden stirrers, or the plastic cutleries are all made of eco-materials? And by eco-material, we have already heard so many different terms: recyclable, recycled, biodegradable, bio-based materials. So if they are all so-called green materials, I don't have the guilty kind of things that after a big breakfast, I have created such a huge amount of waste. And then, will the waste be recovered or recycled? If the material itself is not made from eco-friendly raw material, will it be possible for the restaurants to send all the waste to recycling plants and then channel it back to circular economy? We heard so much today. That will also help myself for being not so green. And then, what about the restaurant change practices? If they don't just use this one single-use disposable paper cups, plastic plate, that kind of things, and then they change it all into reusable plate, reusable cups. And then that will also help me reduce the waste, right? What about myself? If I bring along my own reusable cups, and then I ask the restaurants to fill it, will they do so? Will it be convenient for myself? And then, do I change my habit? So finally, what about I don't visit these quick service restaurants? Shall I visit more luxurious high-class dine-in restaurants such that they will use ceramic cups, they will use reusable plates to serve my breakfast? Will I be affordable to visit that kind of restaurants? Will that restaurants, in terms of brand choice, in my list? So these are all the questions that I start asking myself. I guess you may, at some point of time, have similar questions. Not necessarily for your breakfast, but maybe encountering your shopping, whether you're shopping for fashions or shopping for other durable goods. These are all the different kind of questions that we as a consumer are not quite sure and not quite certain. And we heard so much that the brands or the supply chain are helping us to be more eco-friendly. But is that really so? Globally, more and more consumers are being more environmentally conscious. And then I start asking myself, does clothing really need the packaging? If they don't need it, why is it in the market so many different types of packaging? You can see from here, it's just a few of it. Different kind of pad format. It can be a foldable paper box. It can be a paper box with window. It could be a plastic bag whether it's self-sealed or resealable. And then it even could be a agar box that with a hook, and then the retail can just hang on the retailer and then sell it. And then it can even be a gift set, like in the bottom, the free gift set, the shirt together with the tie, and then pack it in a plastic box or a paper box or even a gift box. So it looks to me that clothing by itself is already a product, and then when I buy it from the retailer, I can just grab it and then get it to my home. But why do we need all this kind of packaging? So let's understand what's the function and roles of the packaging. Primarily, from textbook, we know that there are 3 different types of packaging. The primary one is the products that's in contact with your goods. Usually is for sales unit or for containment. And then the secondary package will be like, you have multiple primary package, you want to make it into a unitization. Say for instance, you want to sell 3 pairs of socks all together, and then you may want a secondary package for it. And then the tertiary one will be the packaging for transit, usually for transportations to overseas, for protections like the wooden crate or the plastic shrink wraps. So these are the different packaging types. Packaging needs to be meeting different demands, different requirements. I just mentioned that maybe when I, as a consumer, I don't need any primary package for my clothes. However, when the manufacturer ship the products to overseas, say for instance the factory is located in China and then they need to ship products to the retailer in US, then they will need some sort of packaging, whether you call it primary or secondary. So how are we going to address the consumer consciences, especially when a majority of them start to be realized of packaging sustainability? They already reach a tipping point, and in fact, they will influence their brand choice, and then they want the brand they choose to be more sustainable, whether it's in terms of the products they sold or in terms of the packaging that's with their products. So this is a very emerging trends, and then we all need to be remembered of it. And then the second one is about the retailer's benchmark. Retailers, since they are the direct company who's in contact with the consumers, so they want their suppliers, they want the brands to be also environmentally friendly, because they want to position themselves such that consumer will visit their retail shops more often. So in that sense, they're demanding the brands to provide products with more eco-friendly packagings. And then supply chain transparency. I'm sure that the industry practitioners sitting here heard so much about transparency and traceability. And people are demanding to know that who's making my clothes, is the factory treating the people good, and then how about the land the factory is located, because we may pollute the homeland of the workers. So these are all the questions that consumers start asking when they consider the products, when they consider the brands, whether they are environmentally friendly or sustainable. And then the final stakeholder groups is all the others, like non-government organizations or even government organizations. They are all the stakeholders that are putting pressure into brands, into the fashion industry, asking you to make your products to be more sustainable, as well as the packaging. I also start to think of, now that we are in an omni-channel world, we used to have packaging to perform a lot of different roles. Say, for instance, in the top rows, you see that the packaging actually helped us not only doing the protections, but also it will be product identification. Say, for instance, when we buy a shirt, you have different size, you have large, medium, and small size, and then the packaging can help us identify which size of the product it is. At the same time, there are information transferred to the consumer. Say, for instance, they can put a lot of different information on the package such that when I buy the products, I know what material it's made from or what country it's made from. Probably it's from the label on the shirt, but again, the outer packaging can serve as a place that you deliver your message, deliver some of the information to the consumers. And at the same time, I already mentioned about the utilitizations, convenience. Say, if I grab a shirt out from a retailer, I need to have my own bag in order to carry it. But if there's already a package, then I can grab it and go away. And then at the same time, there are marketing and promotions that you can put on the brand, on the outer package. But when we come to the e-commerce, oftentimes the consumers already make a decision when they put the product into the buying cart. And then when they press a button and then pay for it, then the fulfillment will be like you only need to deliver the products to their home in a safe and proper conditions. You don't already need any more to deliver the message or use the outer package for marketing promotion because all that are already done in the website. So we need to start rethinking and redefine the role of packaging in this e-commerce world. Do we use the same set of packaging or do we need to create another set of packaging? And at the same time, a lot of people start talking about the waste created by the e-commerce. Because when you're shipping the products out, your product needs a lot of infill and then need a lot of outer package such that your products are being protected well. Then you need to start asking yourself, do you use better material, more environmentally friendly materials? And if so, you better let your consumers know. Sometimes when you're doing something good, like if the infill products are made from like starch-based products, you better let your end customers know about it and then inform them how to recycle it or where should they dispose it. Because otherwise, you just leave it and then you think that you already perform a role that you are supplying a more sustainable product, more sustainable packaging. But in reality, when your end customer do not know that material is recyclable or do not place that product into the proper system, then all the tasks, all the good efforts that you make in the very beginning will get lost in the market. And then it will end up in the landfill. So we start seeing a lot of global regulations and policies. Actually, the UN Assembly has agreed by 175 countries on a Global Plastic Pollution Act. And then they start already drafting the bills, and then they hope to have it done by end of 2024. And on your right-hand side, these are some of the emerging policies in selective countries. And then you can see that primarily they are on plastics, single-use bags, single-use cutleries, tablewares. So they start to have a framework because there are such a big noise that the plastic leakage into the natural environment and then ends up into our food chain and then get back to ourselves. So it's serious problem, and then world governments are starting to do something on it. And then another report from McKinsey They surveyed 30 countries across Asia, Europe, Latin America, Middle East, as well as North America. And then you can see that there are different types of functions. They group it into 5 different functions. The first one is reductions. The second one is about packaging design and safety. The third one is about labeling and transparency. And then the fourth one is about the collections, the extended producer's responsibility. And then the final one is about recycling. So you'll see that among all these 5 types of measures or regulations, the most countries developed regulations from is about the extended producer's responsibility. Because these are very, very important in a sense that if the producers, if the brands has extended their responsibility to take care of the packaging material right from the start, and then help with the end-of-life treatment, then probably we hope that the issues will not be so bad continuous onward. And you can see that 28 countries out of 30 sampled have put up some regulations on it, and then there are in total 91 regulations for it. I'd like to actually we think about packaging together with you. Packaging by itself is inherently not good or bad because it serves a function. It serves it whether it's protections or delivering message or for identifications. It's issues how we use the materials and what materials we are using. You can see from the top table that as a packaging designer, you need to optimize the pack design. It will be no good whether you're over-packaged, and at the same time, it will also be no good if you under-package it. Because if you under-package it, you may result in damaged goods. So you need to know about how you deliver the product, the whole cycle that from the origin of the products, whether it's from the factories or from the retailing, and then all the way to your end customer's hand. You need to have a thorough understanding of it before you can come up with an optimum package design. Below chart is about the extended producer's responsibility, is the concept. So what we want to say here is, you don't just change your materials. And then packaging, when you talk about sustainability, it's not just about the materials. It's about life cycle thinking, and at the same time, it's about the material as well as the design. I mentioned in the top table that you need to have an optimum design, and at the same time, you need to use the right materials, as well as you need to understand the whole process. The life cycle thinking helps you to design the most suitable packaging. And then finally, it is about the waste hierarchy framework. On the right-hand side, this is what I say the waste hierarchy framework. It's about, first of all, you try to avoid the materials that you're going to use. And then if it's unavoidable, then you start thinking of reuse it, recycle it, recover it, and then the final choice is dispose. So you can see that it's a hierarchy, and then the final one is the disposal. But when you really think about the packaging that we deal with every day, we don't go through this cycle. We open up the products, the goods, and then we immediately throw away the packaging. We never think of if there's any chance that we can reuse it, or not to say that the retailer or the brands who's going to help me to recycle it or help me to avoid use it. So this is really a transformational thinking, and then we need to all reflect ourselves in order to make packaging more sustainable. So sometimes when people talk about sustainable packaging, immediately the brand directors or the technical team will ask the supplier, do you have any eco materials? And then the suppliers will come up with all different kinds of new materials. I mentioned in the very beginning that recycled against recyclable and the recycled content. Do we know about the definition of each of the terms? Do we just see the label saying that it's recyclable and then we feel good? Here are some alarming messages to you. Some of you may know and then some of you may not know. A biomass or biomaterial may not be biodegradable. So think about it. People were already convinced that, oh, it's biomaterial, so it's good. No, biomaterials may not be biodegradable. And then a biodegradable bag will never decompose in a landfill site. And then non-biodegradable plastics could be recyclable. So all this is about the end-of-life treatments. You know, in Hong Kong, majority of our waste are dealt with landfill. And you can start thinking of if we put a biomaterial into a landfill, and there's no oxygen, no light, and the soil is not good for decomposing any biomaterial. So even you start using biomaterials, it will still be living in the landfill site for 1,000 years. So the issues here, or the story here, is to tell us we don't just deal with the material in the beginning, but we also need to understand the end-of-life treatment. Marketing people, branding people, when they develop business, they will do market research. They will try to understand the habit of the consumer in different countries. And then now it's them to use the expertise to extend the knowledge to understand also about the end-of-life treatment in respective markets. Because when you start to think of developing new business, I guess it's just the responsibility of them to understand how the end consumers will deal with the waste. And then you'll start being more smarter in dealing with or designing your own packaging. So the bottom four pictures actually is a questions that I raised back in 2017 when a lot of people are talking about ocean plastics. And then I start asking in the LinkedIn, if you are a quick service operator, quick service restaurant operator, and then if an NGO come to you and say that I want you to avoid plastic leakage into the environment, what would you do? Will you be like some of the retailer that you use a zipper lid? But mind you, this zipper lid is to avoid plastic straws because it's a good design, and then we eliminate one of the SKUs, and then it looks like the consumers can still drink out from the cup. It looks good. But this zipper lid is using more plastic, maybe even more plastic than a plastic straws. So when you are dealing with one problem, are you creating another? So you need to be smarter when you evaluate the solutions. Do I want to change the plastic stroller to wooden stroller? Looks like that wooden stroller is more environmentally friendly because it's natural materials. However, do we know where the origin of that wood are? Do they have any FSC certifications? If the supplier is just grabbing it from raw and then just chopping it from the forest, will it be an eco-friendly material to me? Some of the company may choose to, we need to educate our consumers. Let's bring them to beach cleaning. But beach cleaning, you can collect the waste from the beach day after day, and then it's still not solving the problems. And then the final solutions could be like you deal with the source. Still remember the waste hierarchy framework? We start already to avoid the productions of the waste. So if a retailer helped me to opt out all the plastic cutleries, then there would be lesser waste cutleries ends up in the landfill in Hong Kong. So in conclusions, I'd like to suggest every one of you to join me in this I Care solutions. What is meant by I Care? Use the mindset of internalizing the environmental externalities. The externalities is about when we deal with business, we always think that the waste management is none of our business. It's the municipal government's issues because the municipal government is providing these waste management services. But in fact, this externality cost will end up back to you because you are a taxpayer. The higher the cost that we invest into municipal waste management, then the government needs a bigger budget, and then it will end up to the business or to the people who's living in the place. Even worse, it's just not talking about the money side. If we damage or pollute the environment that we are living in, remember that if we leave the waste into landfill and then there's leakage into the natural environment or leakage into the sea and then end up into the food chain and then we eat back the fish with the plastic resins. So it gets back to ourselves and then it's not harming our profit margin, but it's harming our health. Not to mention about water pollutions or air pollutions that waste could cause. So these are all the external costs that we need to think of. So we're talking about you want to internalize that cost when you make decisions. It will help you to get a perspective of total cost. And then whenever you make a decision, whether it's this is bad, this is good, you use the same mindset and then you have a thorough understanding on the total cost and literally you make a better decision. And then collaboration with all the participants along the supply chain, whether you are retailer, brands, suppliers, packaging producers, or even engaging the consumers, the local governments. Waste management is such a headache, such a complicated matter, complicated problem. I guess we need to all participate in solving it. And it's not just talking about collaborations, but also about the kind of picking up the responsibility. So there's the extended producer's responsibility that WWF is advocating. And of course, we also need to embrace the life cycle thinking, the waste management hierarchy, and then be smart in choosing the materials, understand that it's compatible with local situations before you really switch over. The bottom two picture is what I got when I have a meditation class in Nepal in 2017. And then you see that they are very, very eco-friendly. They use the leaf as a plate. But imagine when I use it in Nepal and then use it to serve the food, it's good because it's extracted from local, it's regenerative, and then it's decomposed back to the natural environment in the country. But if I get a smart idea and say that, okay, this is a good eco-materials, why don't I buy a container load from the Nepal suppliers and then ship it to Hong Kong and then use it in the restaurants that I just visited? Do I get the same benefits? When things get scaled up, when things that we want to move around, when we think that in one place it looks like a good solution, when we want to bring that solutions to another place, I guess we need to understand and we need to ask ourselves, is it really a good idea? Is it really a good way, proper way to really scale it up all over the world? So with that, I'll leave it to you, and then I hope that when you hear the presentation from the following speakers, you'll get more knowledge, and then you'll start reflecting on how the industry can really collaborate and then deliver a more sustainable product with a more sustainable packaging for our end customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ho, for the sharing. Please be seated. Thank you so much.